So now we're going to talk about the special love relationship and the challenges that come with special love relationship. And I'll also try and look at and discuss a few ways that we can help heal the wounds of failed relationships in the past. So the special love relationship is designed to fail. Why is it designed to fail? Because remember, we're not here to, meet a partner, fall madly in love, and live happily ever after, like the fantasies we get told in our bedtime stories as children. We're only here to awaken to self, meaning realize that this body-mind projection isn't real, and to help that which has dreamt us into form, the dreamer, the Christ mind, realize itself is the extension of God. So relationships are designed to fail, especially because they come from ego. And what is that? Where do they come from? They come from need. They come from the need to validate ourselves, the need for worthiness, the need to be seen. Now, at the very bottom of that is the people-pleasing aspect. Why do we people please? Why do we want to please our parents, our siblings, our colleagues, people we like? Why do we want to please them? Because we need their recognition. We need their validation. If they can validate us in the way that we want to be seen, our internal image of what we want to be and how we want to be seen, if they can validate us in that way, it reaffirms our egoic identity. And so people-pleasing really is the need to be seen however you need to be seen. And what you'll notice about people-pleasing, it mostly comes out of from people that need to have a very good self-image. I'm a good person. I'm a kind person. I'm a compassionate person. Dangerous. I'm an empath. I'm empathic. I feel what you feel. I suffer with your suffering. I suffer with you. I suffer with the community. I suffer with the world. See how the ego pulls you? So it takes a beautiful natural aspect of self, compassion, which is caring with passion, and turns it into a very negative trait called empathy. Now, we believe that empathy is a good trait, but listen to it from where I'm coming from in the way that I'm describing empathy. Empathy is used by the ego because it says, you suffer, I feel your suffering, and next thing I'm suffering with you, both of us are drowning in feelings and emotions, as opposed to rise above the battlefield, see that it's not real, transcend the suffering into the knowing of self. So that's at the basic. Then because we have this need, because we don't recognize ourselves as the Holy Son of God, we beat ourselves up. What do we attract into our lives? Hyper narcissists. Now, this is a going trend at the moment. Everybody's a narcissist and everybody's toxic. Of course, you're perfect. Every single physical form is a narcissist. The fact that you've taken form means narcissism. What is a narcissist? It's someone that somehow finds a way to sabotage themselves by attacking the whole world and blaming everybody except themselves for their problems. And what are you doing? Projecting, but where is it coming from? Yourself. So trust me, a narcissist beats themselves up way more than they beat anybody else up, because most narcissists are cowards, and therefore they'll rather beat themselves up severely than they'll hurt others. The only time they'll hurt others is if they're in a position of authority. So narcissist is going to get you to please them in order to give you what you need to hear. They'll give you all the compliments in order to help you build your self-worth, and then they'll attack it and break it down. And remember, it's not just men that are narcissists. Don't go there. Women are just as narcissistic, and they can do it in the sweetest way. They'll always hold you at fault for the failed relationship. They'll blame you for not having seen them in a certain way and get you to, follow them, and only to find fault with everything. And if you look at failed relationships where men leave their wives or cheat, the reason men leave their wives and cheat is not because they're no longer attracted to them. They stop becoming attracted to their wife because she's constantly breaking them down. And he needs to see himself as your hero, as the prince on the horse. And if you keep criticizing him, keep breaking him down, he's going to go and look for someone else that sees him the way that you once looked upon him. And so he's now going to look for a younger version of you, or a more compassionate version that you've become because you become bitter. So just bear that in mind. And the same thing, there's a reverse when it comes to men and female. One of the challenges of failed special love relationships is to recognize our own patterns, the vasanas, the karmic imprints, the latent tendencies, the habitual habits, the habitual patterns, the self-sabotaging ways that we act upon ourselves, the constant beating ourselves up. You have to become aware of that. And we have to transcend it. And how do we transcend it? Well, let's forgive it. What does it mean to forgive it? You have to understand the benefit of the lesson. How has it helped you come a step closer to the recognition of your true self? When you realize that the hurtful past lesson has brought you into a higher awareness of yourself, bringing you closer and closer to a transcendence moment, a holy instant, then you can be grateful for the hurt you experienced, because you realize, if I had not experienced the failure of this relationship, the breakdown of this relationship, I wouldn't have looked deeper to find a better way. Now, this is the truth of the spiritual community, and I encapsulate the entire spiritual community, whether it goes from quantum to the Bliss Bunny dance naked under the moonlight, drumming and prana breathing and chakras and meditating and yoga, all of it. You'll find that the majority, and this is the majority from my research, and just so that you know, I have a doctorate in behavioral psychology, and so I like to research. What you'll notice is that, how do I put it in a subtle way? Most of the spiritual community has been bruised, beaten, and battered because of special love relationships. Spiritual community is filled with people that are emotionally scarred, whether it was at the formative years between the ages of 6 and 9, 10, 11, 12, stage 1, stage 2 from 12 to 18, or stage 3 from 18 to their late 20s, early 30s. They've been beaten down, broken down. If you look at the dynamics of the Imago relationship dynamic tool, victims and bullies, aloofs and interrogators. They've been broken down, and they've built a certain survival pattern, instinctive survival pattern. And one of them, people pleasing, the other one is dominate and control, the two spectrums. Victims on the one side, bullies on the other side. The aloofs just pretend not to care, walk away. The interrogators ask lots of questions, seem to be interested, only break you down, the narcissistic behavior. And that brings me to a very important topic. Is a commonly known, although it's rising in awareness right now, there's a topic called HIT, hyperindependence syndrome, or hyperindependence trauma syndrome. Hyperindependence trauma syndrome, HITS. Google it. There's a lot written about it. Now, what we tend to do is we all need to do this in order to awaken the self. We need to retreat, surrender to what is, retreat, find alone space, find time to be quiet, find time to reflect, find time to really practice true forgiveness, understand the lessons, understand the benefits of lessons, let the past go, let the fear of the future go, return to presence, abide in silent stillness, in gratitude, become aware of the all-encompassing self. But because of the trauma that certain, especially the spiritual individuals, have gone through, emotional damage caused by abandonment, rejection, abuse, or they've had life-changing situations where their parents have died, or children have died, or they've had a traumatic accident, or they've been severely beaten, or they've been betrayed over and over again. They start to build a certain wall, a defense mechanism towards. It's like a child who burns his hand on a hot plate. Every time he comes near the heat now, he pulls his hand back. And so we start to build these tendencies. Of course, we're now going through the life stages as well. And so our physiology is changing. And so Luann Brizendine wrote a phenomenal book called The Female Brain. It's not just about the female brain, it's the male brain too. I highly recommend you read it so that you can understand the physiological changing that the ego body mind device is actually going through. So you can understand what's physically happening. And so as we're getting older, the desire to conquer, procreate, have children, build a family. If you've gotten past a certain age, you're still looking for a connection, intimacy, the love of God, the recognition of the Christ in front of you, connecting with that, which comes from inside. It plays out through attraction. It wants to connect. It wants to merge. It wants to join. So be aware of that's happening at the same time too. But because many spiritual people have been really severely hurt, damaged, betrayed, hurt, abandoned, they start to build a need to be independent and no reliance on anyone else. I mean, there's even the cases of natural disasters where tornadoes have flown over, destroyed a village, or earthquakes, and it's any form of physical, emotional, sexual, physiological trauma, family violence, where you lived in poverty and just never had an opportunity to rise above the battlefield. So you found a way, educated yourself, grew out of the slums, started to become very independent. Now, a healthy relationship between two conscious or hyper-conscious beings is interdependence. The two opposites of it is codependence. Now, enough has been said about codependence. We know we completely codependent on each other. The reality is we actually all are codependent on each other because we're all fractured parts of one indivisible mind. But we're talking about the physical codependency of humans now. On the other side of the spectrum is one of the fastest growing traumas that is happening to the spiritual community, and it's the beginning of hyper-independence syndrome or hyper-independence trauma. And just to give you ideas of it, what are the symptoms of that? People are in constant state of panic, hyper alert all the time, and expecting to be hurt at any given time, expecting to be attacked. So there's this continuous anxiety. These are also people you can notice, they shake a lot. They just have this gentle tremor. There's this hyper anxiety moving through their bodies. They also go through serious ups and downs, extreme sadness, hyper happiness, but they become deeply sad, deeply depressed. They withdraw themselves socially. They start to become very reclusive. And they're very, very selective on which their friends are. So they can't connect with everybody else. They don't want to. Everybody else is just rubbish. No one's spiritual. They only want to connect with spiritual communities because that's wonderful. Hey, it's all you. You need to love all of yourself. They have complete dissociative feelings. They can only communicate with other people that completely understand what they do. If a person just slightly disagrees with them, no matter how long they've been friends, they want to block, cut, get rid of them. Become aware of this. And then these are people that suffer often from severe headaches, severe stomach issues, because they're constantly stressed. They're constantly stressed mentally and physically and emotionally, and it's all going to be twisting and turning inside. So be aware of that. The characteristics of hyper-independence is the inability to open up. And so they can open up about spiritual topics. Oh, let's sing Kumbaya. But anything else, we don't talk about emotions, and it's not true. And we love the spiritual language, and if only and but, and whatnot. Well, we just never really just, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling horny. I'm feeling sexy. I'm feeling hungry. No, we're not supposed to. We only say we feel sad and we feel empathy, but no other. This is not spiritual language. And so anytime there's closeness, starts to any form of relationship, even a friendship, start to get some form of commitment, they withdraw almost immediately. They'll open up and be openly intimate for an hour or two or a day or two, and then immediately pull back because they need independence. They flee a relationship because they immediately start to get a sense of loss of self. And what self are we talking about? We're talking about little self, the little defense ego mechanism that had to survive the trauma, the childhood trauma, the young adult trauma, and or for whatever reasons, and now they become fiercely independent. And so they develop an attachment to someone, but they don't let that person develop an attachment to them. Please don't ask anything of me, but you need to be there when I need you. They're always trying to prove that they're completely self-sufficient. I don't need you. I don't need help. They refuse to get help. Now, for women, if you refuse your holy companion, male holy companion, if you refuse to let him help you, you're going to start breaking him down. The masculine needs to be able to help you. Keep pushing him away, and he's going to look for someone else who needs his help, because he's thinking to himself, I'm not good enough. She won't let me help me. And remember, the minute you refuse someone else's kindness or help, you're actually refusing their gift of love. And so they don't accept help from anyone, unless it's really drastic case, need an ambulance, take me to the hospital. And so they're always striving. They fill their lives up with work and excursions, and if they have the money, they travel and they're on adventures, and they never have time for that person where the intimacy is being developed. So they're constantly busy, 2-3 jobs if needed, because there's no time to sit with self. And you'll find very often they're also very connected to certain societies, spiritual societies, very connected to nature, very grounded in nature. And that's their sense of ground self. Because that self, that grounding that they need from the ocean, from the trees, from the sand, from the forests, is the only way that they can sense their self. And that self is the false self. So when they say they're losing themselves in you and they have to pull away, they're losing their egoic sense of self. And they use every type of avoidance topic. Okay, they'll avoid social events where intimacy could happen, where commitment could be shown. They're very reclusive that way. They're very often seen as the gypsies of the world. The musician, the gypsy girl, the rock star, the biker dude. They just don't connect. They're aloof, very attractive because they're so hard to pin down. But start to scratch, they start to show you a part of themselves. The minute you start to scratch, they become emotionally unavailable. Completely. They'll have deep intimacy with you and then push away. They have to get away. Got to get a sense of self, sense of false egoic self. Now, this is a condition growing amongst spiritual communities. Be aware of that. Be aware that hyperindependence is not a healthy state of mind. No one can live alone forever, for we are forever all one. We didn't come here to be alone. We came here to recognize self. And once that self is recognized, you don't detach from the world. That's a very misused word in spiritual circles, detach. Dispassion. Yes, but detach, no. How can you detach from yourself and the content of your dreaming mind? It's all in your mind. You're connected to all of it. Now, you may be aligned with certain flows, but you can't detach from all of it. Be non-attached to all of it, but realize your connectedness to all of it. The entire universe is interconnected. Like I say, in a way, we're actually codependent on all each other. We're completely codependent on each other. Why? Because each one of us is a part of the puzzle that helps the dreaming mind awaken. You cannot detach from yourself. For yourself is all you are. The self is the universe is the content of the self's dreaming mind. So be non-attached to outcomes, expectations. Expect nothing from anyone. Don't put anybody under pressure to make you a promise. People either want to flow into your life, but you shouldn't have to beg anyone to be with you, spend time with you, give you attention, and just be kind. They're not asking, you can go into Gary's book of the 5 love languages, not asking for gifts and quality time. It's whatever flows. But at the end of the day, connection is what we all crave, because what is connection between two people? but the connection between ourselves and the Lord God of our being in all others. We can't go and connect with all 8 billion. So one is enough to be the reflection of our true self, a mirror that can show us our unhealed parts, our unforgiven lessons, so we can be consciously bring it into the surface. So be very wary that we don't run away. The guy in the log cabin living by himself, Yuppie Adam with the bear, and it doesn't connect. I don't need love. You don't need love. You are love. You need to extend love. You need to express love. Now, bearing in mind, as you get older in life, the need for that physicality is not as intense as it was when you were 15, 18, 19, 21, 25, 30. It transforms into a more mature, excuse the term, and gentle connection. But intimacy we need. And so, yes, we derive that from friends and community and social circles, spiritual social circles. But do not close yourself off from receiving into me I see. Intimacy is looking within, recognizing the nature of our true self, and opening and extending it and connecting. That's how you become the light that saves the world. That's how you become the light that brings the rest of your fractured selves into the awareness of what our true nature is, dissolving the need for special body identity. And as soon as the body-mind identity dissolves, we are awakening to self, that which dreams us. And as each fractured dream character awakens to the dreaming mind is lit that much more, and the dreamer awakens from the dreamer separation. Like I said, we don't awaken. The dreamer is awakening to itself. And what's itself? Its essential nature. And what is its essential nature? Is the nature of God: love, joy, peace. We're not yet to run away from it. It's fine. We all, like I said, we've got to pull away, got to find a retreat, got to go be the monk in the cave, return to self. But at some stage, once the awakened awareness is there, once we are aware of the all-pervading awareness we are, the love of God we are, the silent stillness that moves through us as joyous presence, now we need to bring that gift of self to the world as we serve the rest of our fractured selves. Because what are others? Parts of our one fractured dreaming mind. You and I are parts of the same dreaming mind, appearing as different forms, thoughts that have taken form. Now we must constantly practice discernment. Now that we are awakened to self, now we must be careful, because the ego, like I said, isn't going to let us go gently into the light. It's going to fight us, because you return to the light, the ego, body, mind, that fracture dies to self, to the true self. And so now discernment, as Jesus taught us in the Bible, keep your lanterns burning, because the thief comes in through the back door in the middle of the night when you're least expecting it. Discernment, non-judgment, dispassionate non-attachment, yet the realization connected to everything. And in so doing, the non-existent ego just gently fades to gray, just dissolves, doesn't die, just dissolves. Eventually, you put the body down, the essence of your true self, your soul, returns to the awake part of the mind. And each one of us that awakens to self does the dreaming mind, the collective self, such a great service, because we're not here to help each other as in physical forms. We had to awaken to self, and that way we will help the collective. Then, as we physically are awake to self, then we abide in silent stillness, in gratitude, and clear vision will show us how to act for the greater good of all of us. One dreaming mind, fractured into 8 billion human body minds on this planet, 9 septillion throughout the universe. Each one of us awakening awakens billions at a time. For each one that awakens to self, awakens to Christ, you bring 1,760 with you in that one holy instant. Be that knowingly. Be careful. Don't pull away. Wonderful. Spiritual communities are wonderful. But don't avoid going into the darkest part of the dreams and bringing the light there. Where did you find Jesus 2,000 years ago? With the taxpayers and the prostitutes and the sinners and the lepers. You found him in the dark parts of the dream, giving the light to where it was needed most. Because in spiritual communities, you're all awakened or awakening. Well, it's wonderful. Let's get together, recharge, and share the love of God consciously and knowingly in a safe environment. Be careful to know, oh, my partner's not spiritual, so I can't be with them. It doesn't have to be spiritual. What's your partner? What is spiritual? It's just an egoic term of specialness. Remember, Jesus wasn't a Christian. You're not spiritual. What was Jesus? The sharing of love. What are you? The sharing of love. Don't start giving yourself labels. And if someone isn't spiritual like you, doesn't believe the same thing, just block them, chop them up, throw them away. No, no, no. Be yourself knowingly. With all the passion of the Christ you are. Thanks for joining me. Hope this brought clarity. Send me your questions. Blessings.